Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Multicultural Community Wellbeing Campaign. And I'm Jasusa Halaratna, Deputy Director of the Multicultural Health Communication Service, and we welcome you joining us here online. We are joining you from the Eora Nation, and I would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land where we're all meeting today. I would like to also extend the respects to elders and leaders of multicultural communities present today. The Multicultural Community Wellbeing Campaign is a project by the New South Wales Multicultural Health Communication Service and the New South Wales Primary Health Networks. We have been supported by two wonderful organizations, Settlement Services International, or SSI, and Special Broadcasting Service, or SBS. So thank you so much for joining us today. This initiative is a project where it engages closely with young people from multicultural backgrounds and their families and friends and community. And it allows a co-design project, which also allows people to have meaningful relationships and meaningful conversations about mental health support and strategies, especially during this time. We have an exciting program for you this morning, so thank you again for joining us. We encourage you to share your comments and posts on the New South Wales Multicultural Health Communication Service social media platforms, or MSCS channels, and please add hashtag multicultural community wellbeing. So we'll begin by starting our lineup of speakers. We have so many speakers today, and we also have a Q&A panel. So please list down your questions and we'll have that to you shortly. So now to officially kick off the start of today's program, I'd like to introduce Lisa Woodland from the New South Wales Multicultural Health Communication Service. She's the director, and she'll be talking about more about the projects, the strategies, as well as the partnerships. Lisa, it's great to see you, and it's exciting to be here today.
Yes, thank you very much, Jess. It's really exciting to join you, and good morning, everyone. I would also like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we're gathering today. We're joining you from the lands of the Camaragal people. I'd like to pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging, and extend that respect to Aboriginal people who are joining us today. I would also like to pay my respects to people from migrant and refugee backgrounds who have come from all across the world to make Australia their home and to contribute to our rich and very successful multicultural society. It's my great pleasure to be here today at the launch of the Multicultural Community Wellbeing Campaign in partnership with the primary health networks across New South Wales. As Jess mentioned, this is a collaboration between the primary health networks, SBS, and Settlement Services International, SSI. I'd like to take the opportunity to introduce you to our Multicultural Health Communication Service. We are a statewide service funded by New South Wales Health and hosted by South Eastern Sydney Local Health District. We aim to strengthen the capacity of health services and programs to communicate effectively and appropriately with culturally and linguistically diverse communities and to coordinate the provision of multilingual health information. This project came about when Central and Eastern Sydney Primary Health Network approached us to develop a campaign targeting multicultural communities during the COVID-19 pandemic. We proposed to work with young people from culturally and linguistically diverse backgrounds to increase meaningful conversations between young people, their families, and their community networks around mental health supports and strategies. We've been working closely with a number of primary health networks across New South Wales, including Central and Eastern Sydney Primary Health Network, Southwestern Sydney Primary Health Network, Went West, Nepean Blue Mountains Primary Health Network, and Sydney North Health Network. We've also been working closely with SSI to engage youth advocates to creatively design and promote key messages around mental health strategies and supports, as we said, for young people, but also their families and community networks. We knew that SSI's Youth Collective would be a great partner for this project. The collective provides a platform for young people to engage in activities at a local level and to actively inform service planning, implementation, and evaluation. Through our collaboration with SSI, Multicultural Health Communication Service conducted online workshops on script writing and video production. We formed a working group with young people to edit the videos and develop appropriate dissemination strategies. 5 young people, Subash, Shahida, Shaima, Hala, and Nicole, participated in the workshops to develop their videos. And from the initial ideas to script writing, video, and editing, every step along the way, they really impressed us. Everyone worked cohesively, collaborating with the production team and each other. All their enthusiasm and courage made our partnership with SSI so successful. Later, you will see the multilingual video showcasing the personal stories of these young people. The stories reflect how they manage their mental health during the challenging times of COVID. And their stories are very positive and very insightful. The campaign has also involved a partnership with SBS to develop videos and radio advertisements in 12 languages to promote mental health messages. Our Multicultural Health Communication Service team has a successful and ongoing relationship with SBS, spanning close to 20 years, developing audiovisual resources to reach culturally and linguistically diverse communities through in-language programs and digital platforms. The videos and radio advertisements target young people from culturally and linguistically diverse backgrounds and their multi-generational family and community networks. Our aim for the audience is to think well-being, connection, and acknowledgement of feelings. Our call to action is stay connected with family, friends, community, and culture. The script for the video, radio ads, and call to action for the social media tiles were co-designed and tested with the SSI Youth Collaborative. With SBS, we co-produced a 1-minute video in English and Mandarin, and we developed 60-second radio advertisements and social media tiles in 12 languages. And these are Arabic, Assyrian, Bangla, Cantonese, English, Greek, Hindi, Italian, Korean, Mandarin, Nepali, and Vietnamese. I would like to thank our partners, especially Natalie Hansen from the Central and Eastern Sydney PHN, and all the teams across the 5 PHNs in New South Wales who have provided excellent support for this campaign. And of course, the campaign would not have been possible with without SBS and SSI. And I sincerely thank them for their collaboration and the expertise that they've brought. I'd like to thank the Honourable Minister David Coleman, Assistant Minister to the Prime Minister for Mental Health and Suicide Prevention, who has supported this initiative. And to the New South Wales Chief Psychiatrist, Dr. Wright, who's with us here today, a big thank you to you for launching the campaign and the resources. Finally, I would like to sincerely thank all of the young people who participated in the campaign. You've done a wonderful job and brought great energy and enthusiasm and wonderful insights to the campaign. We hope that you all enjoy the videos and resources, and we ask them to share. We ask you to share these through your networks. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Lisa. It's wonderful to hear all those initiatives, and I really support what Lisa's saying. Thanks to the New South Wales Primary Health Networks, of course, to SBS and SSI and the young people. And we're so glad to have so many speakers here today. And Dr. Wright is our guest speaker who will be launching the resources. But now I would like to introduce Ms. Natalie Hansen, whom Lisa thanked. She is the General Manager Planning and Engagement of Central Eastern Sydney Primary Health Network, to discuss the importance of mental health outcomes, especially for young people, and to talk about the Head to Health hotline and pop-up clinics. Natalie, welcome. It's nice to see you.
Thanks very much, Jess, and good morning, everyone. I too would like to acknowledge the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples of this nation and their continuing connection to land, water and community. I'm coming to you from Wongal land in Leichhardt. And I pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging and Aboriginal people here today. So great pleasure to be here. I'm here representing the primary health networks, and there are 6 of us who have joined together to fund this campaign, which, as Lisa and Jess have mentioned, has been a really wonderful partnership with our colleagues at the Multicultural Health Communications Service, SSI and SPS. All of us have large multicultural populations in our regions, and we want to get the word out about mental health, the importance of staying connected and reaching out for support if you're struggling. So I'm going to tell you briefly about one of the new services that we've recently launched, which is called Head to Health. So in August, the Australian government announced it would provide funding to establish 10 Head to Health pop-up clinics in and around Greater Sydney. The clinics opened on the 6th of September, so there was 1 month to establish them. And they will provide support to help people access mental health support services as early and conveniently as possible, so within their local communities. The kind of services that they offer are they actually provide access to multidisciplinary teams, including mental health workers, psychologists, mental health nurses, social workers, peer workers, and alcohol and drug workers. This support is free, so if they can't assist you, they'll also provide referrals to more intensive mental health care or social supports if you need those. The services are available via video, phone, or in a COVID-safe face-to-face manner where that's recommended. So there's every option available. And as I mentioned previously, they're located in primary care settings that hopefully are very convenient for everyone. I'll just tell you the locations of the clinics. So there's one in Lakemba, Hurstville, Tuggerah, Kingswood, Thornley, Shell Harbour, Blacktown, Parramatta, Bankstown and Liverpool. And that the way that you access the service is that you call the phone line 1800 595 212. So we'll be providing links to that through this chat. Or otherwise, if you prefer, you can just walk into the clinics. They're open from 8:30 to 5:30 p.m. Monday to Friday, and talk to the staff there about what your concerns might be, and they'll help you identify the support that you need. I'd say that one of the reasons that we've established these services is recognising that there is a much greater need for mental health support as a result of the pandemic, and people's struggles continue. And so what we wanted to do was make sure that people could access services when they need them. And it's a great thing about these services is there is capacity to support you right now once you've taken the step to reach out for support. So all you have to do is call that phone line, and people will talk to you about what your specific needs are. We know that language and cultural barriers make it doubly hard to reach out and ask for help. And that's why we've focused on this campaign to get the message out in multiple languages and to start getting the conversations going about mental health. So to conclude with, I'd just like to say thank you very much for your support in promoting this information widely in your communities. Thank you.
Enjoy the partnership, the great work, the collaboration, and thank you for the funding and partnership for this campaign. Let's now watch the video message from the Honourable Assistant Minister to the Prime Minister for Mental Health and Suicide Prevention, David Coleman, who would like to say a few words about the importance of this campaign. Let's watch this.
Good morning. I'm sorry I can't be there in person, but I want to send my thanks to everyone involved in this campaign. It's an extremely important initiative and one which has the Australian government's strong support. When it comes to mental health in our multicultural communities, there are a number of common issues. The impact of stigma, the importance of community support and communication, and the issue of people living with mental illness who are not seeking treatment. Ensuring culturally and linguistically appropriate communications and support can go a long way to helping address these issues. Mental health and suicide prevention is one of the Australian government's highest priorities. It's been an area of growing need for some years. This year's budget demonstrates the government's commitment to this priority. We provided $2.3 billion for the National Mental Health and Suicide Prevention Program, the largest Commonwealth mental health investment in Australia's history. This brings the government's total estimated mental health spend in 2021-22 to a record $6.5 billion. Specifically, the government is providing Mental Health Australia with $5.1 million over 4 years to help ensure that the mental health system reflects and responds well to Australia's diverse population, and the quality and culturally responsive care is available when needed most. This includes funding for Embrace Multicultural Australia, an online resource which helps to ensure mental health and suicide prevention resources, services and information are available to a wide range of culturally diverse communities. But the events of the last 2 years have put new and unprecedented pressures on many of us. The pandemic has changed the way we live and work, impacting our lives in ways we couldn't have imagined. Many have faced loss of income, isolation from loved ones, and the additional pressure of working and learning from home. We know these challenges have significantly affected the mental health and well-being of individuals, of families, of communities, and it continues to do so. Since last March, the Australian government has provided more than $1 billion to expand mental health services in response to the pandemic, including significant investment in telehealth services. And while things are generally looking positive for the people of New South Wales, we're still dealing with a lot of change and uncertainty. Many people will enjoy returning to normal life, but we know that a lot of people will also feel anxious as restrictions are lifted and as life returns to normal. Others will still be feeling the impact of the pandemic, whether it's through loss of income, the loss of a business, or loss of time with family and friends. It can be hard to reach out and ask for help, and even harder to name what you need when there is a language or a cultural barrier, or when you don't feel safe. All Australians should feel supported and able to access mental health services when and where they need them. This includes making services and resources available in people's own language. And that's why this campaign is so important. It uses the experiences of young multicultural Australians to encourage other young people to reach out for support. There's plenty of support available. We just have to make sure that those who need it know about it. I'm pleased to see that this campaign encourages people to stay connected and seek mental health support from the new Head to Health pop-up clinics which were set up during the recent lockdown. In August, we announced more than $10 million for extra mental health support for the people of New South Wales, comprising 10 pop-up mental health clinics and a statewide mental health intake and assessment phone line. The pop-up clinics are all located within existing health facilities, so they've rapidly sprung into action, offering free professional help and support and warm referral to other services if needed. In the longer term, some of them may become part of the national network of mental health treatment centres that the Australian government is planning. As well as providing services, one of the best things we can do for mental health is to encourage people to reach out for help. And I'm sure that this campaign will help many young people to take that first step. This is a positive example of collaboration between organisations funded by the Australian and New South Wales governments to address issues in mental health. Well done to everyone involved. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much. That was a wonderful message from Minister Coleman. Unfortunately, he can't join us, but that was a great message and lots of information about Head to Health. So it's now my pleasure to introduce Subash Budel, a young person from the Nepali-speaking community who participated in a testimonial video project as part of this incredible partnership with the Settlement Services International, SSI, and its youth networks to co-design and co-produce social media campaign, which includes personal stories featuring young people from multicultural backgrounds. 6 videos were produced by the young people for the project, 1 combined video and 5 individual short video testimonials. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Subash to tell his story. Subash, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Jess. Good morning, everyone. Before I start, I would like to acknowledge the traditional order of the land, the past, the present, and the future emerging leaders from the Aboriginal community. I would also like to pay respect to the elders of multicultural background. Um, so I'm very pleased and thrilled to be part of the project. I would like to thank Sophia from Settlement Service International for providing the opportunity to connect with youth like me and speak for multilingual health communication information under multicultural health communication service. The past couple of years has been really challenging for me in terms of having to come into a new country, trying to settle in, and then with all the COVID and pandemic, it was really difficult for me to settle in. But I'm grateful for the opportunities and support provided by Australian government and different organizations as Settlement Service International, NSW Health, and other organizations that has been working really closely with youth to support us during this hard time. So I would like to express my gratitude to Settlement Service International and its youth network that includes Youth Collective and the Youth Worker Network drawn within the NSW Settlement Partnership, which provided me a platform to speak about my experience, my time during the pandemic, and how I could contribute back to my community by encouraging people to speak on behalf, speak about their mental health and well-being. The project was really interesting given the fact that it was youth-led and youth produced. So that provided us a platform to feel about how much impact that we as a youth are contributing back to community. I would like to thank Ivania, Gaia, and Sophia for being the mentor throughout the process, which was about 6 weeks that we learned from video editing, video making, from our own film, and from our own phone, and filming, script writing, understanding the dynamics of how we can work together as a team, being from a different multicultural background. So it was really, I feel really honored to be sharing the platform with experts from NSW Health, Dr. Murray, and other experts from NSW Primary Health Network and Multicultural Health Communication Network as well. So as this project helped me a lot in terms of my own struggle with my mental health during my time when I was in my college. I was struggling with my own mental health and well-being. It was really difficult for me to keep up with my own schedule of work, study, pandemic, lockdown, not being able to be able to go back to home, and many more things. So this project was like our honorable minister David Coleman told in his speech, that this was the first step for me to move forward from my own struggle. And I would like to thank Settlement Service International for providing that platform for me to take that first step to tackle my own struggle with mental health, and now being one of the youth advocate, one of the youth representative from multicultural background, to be able to speak on this platform and to be able to share the platform is really a matter of things that makes me happy and proud of myself. So I would also like to thank my fellow colleagues who are featuring the testimonial: Akol, Hala, Sahida, Saima, and Eve, who was one of the youth that mix up the video, help us with support to prepare the long videos and gives us tips of how we can work on with the videos. So, and before I conclude, I would like to thank all of the participants participating in this webinar and supporting the campaign as well. So thank you very much for this opportunity, Jess, and I would like to hand over back to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Subash. I mean, your story, your journey, and thank you for sharing that, your valuable contribution and generosity in participating in the 6-week workshop. It was incredible, and we want to thank SSI and the Youth Collective for that. The passion and commitment brought forward by you and the other people, the young people in the project, Shahida, Shaima, Halash, Achol, who share their stories, as well as Ivania, the youth worker from Focus Connect, and Eva, the young editor of the video, was truly inspiring. Let's now watch this combined multilingual video by the 5 young people, Subash, Shahida, Shaima, Hala, and Achol, developed in partnership with the SSI Youth Collective.
Us humans are like birds. We like to fly free, but lockdown wasn't a great help. We have to work together hand by hand to achieve our goal. What did you do during lockdown? Did you go for walks? Did you have healthy breakfast? Did you spend time with your family?
I did many things during the lockdown to help me look after my mental and my physical health. Even though I had nothing to do, I still wake up early, go for a 30 minutes walk, and then I would make myself a healthy breakfast. I hop in a shower and then get all cozy and ready for my homework. In the evening, I FaceTime my friends. And of course, I didn't forget to spend time with my family. Please don't forget to look after your mental health and physical health, and always stay in a good shape.
سلام، نام از من شاهده حیدریه. وقتی که قرنطین شروع شد من فول تایم درس میخوندم و پالیش کارم رفتم و بعض وقتا بعد از کار که خلاص میشدم امروی دوست خو رفتم قدم زدو و وقت زیاد امروی فامیل خو امروی 2 تا خوار رزق خو سپری میکردم، به خاطر اینکه خیلی امی کار بلده حالت روحی و روانی از من یا مو منتال هلتم خیلی مفید تمام شد و مرا تقویت میکرد. تشکر.
Since I couldn't do laps on a treadmill anymore, I would sprint in my brain chasing the words for my next poetry exercise. Now that the world is open up again, as much as you should be taking care of your physical health, you should also be checking on your mental state.
परिवारसँग बिताएको समय निकै मूल्यवान हुन्छ। घर परिवारबाट टाढा यो वर्ष निकै चुनौतीपूर्ण। आउनुहोस् यो चुनौतीको सामना गरौँ। आफ्नो घर परिवारसँग आफ्नो सम्बन्ध अझ गाढा बनाऊ। एकअर्कालाई फोन गरौँ, मेसेज गरौँ, भिडियो कल गरौँ। वरिपरि रहेका साथीभाइ इष्टमित्रहरूसँग भेटघाट गरौँ। शारीरिक व्यायाम, कसरत जस्ता शारीरिक क्रियाकलापहरूमा समय बिताउँ। कोभिड विरुद्ध आफू पनि सुरक्षित रहौँ र आफ्नो वरिपरिका मान्छेहरूलाई पनि सुरक्षित राखौँ। यदि तपाईँ या तपाईँले चिनेको कसैलाई कोभिड विरुद्ध केही कठिनाइ भइरहेको छ भने चिकित्सक सल्लाह लिन प्रोत्साहन गरौँ। आफू पनि बचौँ र अरूलाई पनि बचाऊ। कोभिड विरुद्धको हाम्रो सङ्घर्षमा साथ दियौँ।
Thank you very much. That was such a great video. And please go to the Multicultural Health website, communication service website, and you can share that resource with the communities. Again, that's 1 multilingual video combined, and there are also 5 testimonial videos. So we hope that you could share that with your networks and social media platforms. It's now my pleasure to introduce our guest of honor today, our Chief Psychiatrist of New South Wales Health and New South Wales. We're honored to have him with us today to launch the resources for the Multicultural Community Wellbeing Campaign. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Dr. Murray Wright. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Jess, and good morning, everyone. I would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we are meeting. I'm joining you from the lands of the Camaragal people. I'd like to pay my respect to elders, past, present and emerging, and to any Aboriginal colleagues joining us here today. I also want to pay my respect to all people from culturally and linguistically diverse backgrounds and their leaders who are represented here today. I'm really very pleased to be launching the resources for the Multicultural Community Wellbeing Campaign. That was a wonderful video we just saw, and I hadn't seen it before, and I think it really says everything that I want to say, but much more in a much more interesting way. It's wonderful to see the great partnership between the New South Wales Multicultural Health Communication Service, New South Wales Primary Health Networks to deliver this very important initiative to address mental health issues which are being experienced by young people from multicultural backgrounds, their families, and their communities. The key message of this campaign is stay connected. It's especially meaningful in these challenging times we are all experiencing, and these challenges are going to continue for us all. The collaboration between SBS and Settlement Services International with young people has highlighted the importance and the effectiveness of co-designing health messages with community members, organisations and media. It's a much more powerful outcome this way. Whilst maintaining our collective mental health has been challenging during the pandemic, there is real cause for hope. I think you saw some of it just now. The pandemic has caused a lot of stress and hardship, but it has also generated many meaningful and positive communications about mental health and well-being. I'm hopeful that we're all a bit more informed about what it takes to maintain our individual and collective mental health during times of stress. As we continue to adapt to living with the virus, I encourage you to make mental health a continuing topic of conversation. Talk about it around the dinner table. Talk about it at family gatherings. Discuss it with your friends. These conversations make a real difference. They make a difference to you. They make a difference to the people in your life who matter. If anyone you know is struggling with stress, depression, anxiety, or any of these sorts of problems, reassure them that these problems are manageable, especially if you get support early on. Community, faith, and family have an important role in supporting the mental health and well-being of individuals and communities. There is very strong evidence that community, faith, and family can play a positive role. Cohesion makes a difference. Supportive extended families, supportive communities, and strong sibling relationships can be very protective in times of difficulty. Other protective factors include interventions that support connections and cohesion with one's cultural background and community. The initiative that we are celebrating today encourages anyone with health concerns to reach out to this new free mental health service, Head to Health, by calling 1800 595 212. There have been 11 Head to Health services which have been opened and are taking calls across New South Wales and the ACT. The Head to Health services work closely with existing providers, including GPs and hospitals, and they refer people who need it to more intensive mental health care or social supports. This campaign is an example of collaboration between organisations funded by the Australian and New South Wales governments to address mental health concerns in the community. The collaboration between New South Wales PHNs and New South Wales Multicultural Health Communication Service is an example of our shared commitment to federal and state programs working together to address health challenges. New South Wales Health is acutely aware of the pressures faced by the people of New South Wales over the last 18 months and the mental health impacts of the pandemic. As we enter the recovery phase, we must remain vigilant. New South Wales Government recently announced a $130 million mental health recovery package to fast-track the state's mental health recovery. This package will provide more appointments for psychiatry, psychology and allied health services, including addressing the wait times for young people to access a Headspace centre. It will address the sharp rise in eating disorders and self-harm presentations that we have seen across the community. It will free up more mental health beds. It is launching a statewide psychological first aid and suicide prevention training program. It will establish the Transcultural Mental Health Line early next year, which is a New South Wales first. I want to personally congratulate everyone involved in this very important initiative. It's now my pleasure and my honour to launch the Multicultural Community Wellbeing Campaign and the multilingual resources, including the videos, radio advertisements, and social media tiles promoting mental health strategies and supports to young people and their families and communities. Thank you for inviting me and enjoy the program.
Thank you so much, Dr. Wright. And it's wonderful to have you here and to hear all those new initiatives from New South Wales Health that's coming up in next year. So I think that's pretty exciting. And I think the gaps in mental health programs and strategies, it's good to hear that there's upcoming resources available for communities, also from multicultural health backgrounds. And we now want to also introduce, like Dr. Wright said, for a great partnership with SBS. We co-produced 1-minute video in English and Mandarin, a 60-second radio ad, and I'll just tell you what the languages are. They're in English and 11 languages: Arabic, Assyrian, Bangla, Cantonese, Greek, Italian, Korean, Mandarin, Nepali, and Vietnamese, to promote mental health messages to young people from culturally and linguistically diverse backgrounds and their families. We're so proud for the continuous partnership that we've had with SBS through the years, and most especially for the resources that we've developed today. We're very proud to show you this video. So let's now watch the Stay Connected video.
As New South Wales starts to open up again, now's the time to reconnect. Make a habit of checking in on your friends and family. It can be as simple as scheduling a weekly chat, celebrating special events, unveiling your new lockdown skills, or sharing your vaccination accomplishments. Small things can have a big impact on your overall well-being. Stay connected. If you or someone close to you needs some support, call Head to Health on 1800 595 212 or speak to your GP.
Thank you so much. That video is available in English and in Mandarin, and hopefully in more languages to come, but that's available on the New South Wales Multicultural Health Communication Service website, and that's through our partnership with SBS. So now we're going to move on to our Q&A panel discussion, and thank you again for SBS and SSI for their collaboration, and especially for the development of that Stay Connected video. Together with this video, the testimonials of Subash and the other young people will be available on our website. Now let's move on to the questions. I would like to introduce, of course, our speakers today, Dr. Murray Wright, Lisa Woodland, Natalie Hansen, and Subash Budel, who are available to answer questions from you. And we also have, joining us for the panel discussion is Maria Casaniti, manager of the Transcultural Mental Health Center, who has been doing such great work, wonderful work for multicultural communities. Maria's team, the bilingual health professionals, will be helping with delivering radio interviews as well for key mental health messages for this campaign. So please join me in welcoming Maria. And when we heard Dr. Murray Wright say about the Transcultural Mental Health Lines next year, that's coming, it's exciting that we can chat about that. So Maria Casaniti, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Jess. It's lovely. Look, it's been going really well so far, and I can't thank yourselves enough, as in the Multicultural Communication Service, for this partnership, and of course Dr. Murray Wright and the team at the Mental Health Branch for all the work that has been actually going on for quite some time to get us this far. Now, in terms of, I think, the research that you want me to focus on, Jess has asked, and the Multicultural Communication has very much asked about what we know about young people in the Australian context at this time. And what we do know is that you are, and this campaign is right on track with what is required. We know that the COVID pandemic and related system disruptions have impacted on all young people, as Dr. Wright has indicated. And for vulnerable groups of young people who are already experiencing poorer health and wellbeing, these impacts are of course amplified, and the research is indicating that. The challenges include reduced access to the usual services, reduced community supports, financial uncertainty, unemployment, and barriers to education and study and other life circumstances. And of course, the Australian Institute of Health and Welfare has also supported the research and these findings, and has also indicated that important to note is the full impact on young people at this time is complex and is not yet fully understood. So we've got to continue to really understand the impacts over the long term. And over the long term, we will require monitoring of the potential consequences of the COVID context in terms of long-term employment prospects and finances, their access to secure housing and mental health, etc. But importantly, the Australian Institute of Health and Welfare also says that there are variations in outcomes for different population groups. And this is where we need to look specifically at what we can do for young people of multicultural backgrounds, their families, and of course their communities. Now, moving through the research, we know that already that refugees and migrants have experienced the effects disproportionately. And the research highlights that the intersection of being both young from a migrant or refugee background has definitely created a double disadvantage in education and in the labour market. Nevertheless, the research also augments that well before COVID-19, young people from refugee and migrant backgrounds face persistent barriers to employment, including racism and discrimination when looking for work, barriers that contribute to long-term stable employment, underemployment, and so forth. Importantly, though, we've also moved, as Australia does, very proactively to doing exploratory research and consultations in Australia with young people from migrant and refugee backgrounds. And so the Multicultural Youth Advocacy Network Australia ran consultations with young leaders from refugee and migrant backgrounds, looking specifically at the impact on them and their families during COVID-19, during this period of COVID-19. And the consultations highlighted that COVID-19 does present a rapidly changing landscape with new sets of pressures for young people on their social lives, their daily routines, and access to work and education. So we can't ignore that, those issues. The consultations also emphasised the pre-existing disadvantages that I've already spoken about. And it explained what young people, and it brought to light what young people have done within their own families. So while many young people have grown up in a cultural context where the well-being of the whole family and community is prioritised, this became so important during COVID and above their own individual aspirations. And that's what we've seen, and certainly that's what the campaign is highlighting. So they have struggled, but they've also got on top of this, of the range of pressures and complex relationships that they negotiate between family, cultural ways of being and peer expectations, while simultaneously trying to establish their own identity within our society. Now, research in Melbourne specifically has looked at the importance of refugee people, and we saw this certainly during the lockdowns, and young people showed leadership in terms of not just settlement and assisting their communities, but in public health initiatives. And so we've seen them becoming experts in their own complex experience, valued partners in settlement, future leadership, and potential change makers, as we've seen today. The research by Couch and colleagues explored young refugees' narratives about how they responded to crisis through public health promotion, volunteering, and innovation. So the pandemic, while it's highlighted and amplified some of the issues and challenges for young people, it's also highlighted for us the importance that young people play in supporting their families and communities in settlement and integration, and of course in these kinds of situations that we've seen in the last few years. Now, importantly, they've helped, and this is what the research has shown, navigating information services and resources, serving as interpreters and translators within the home, but also outside of the home, providing economic support to their families and sometimes communities and friends through paid jobs, undertaking instrumental functions for like finding houses, finding healthcare, etc. Mentoring and teaching younger siblings. And this has been really important. One thing that's come out is how much they've helped with homeschooling, and of course giving care and emotional support, not just to younger siblings and their parents, but also grandparents and family and friends. So for young women particularly, the COVID pandemic has underscored how much they carry out in caring, particularly. So that's something else that's important, and we've got to look at that as we move forward and what we do with that, and nurture that as well and support young women as they do this. Now, importantly, the recent, so this was done in 2020, the Multicultural Youth Advocacy Network also engaged Deloitte Access Economics to look at impacts and solutions. And the report highlights, of course, the impact on employment for young people, but reveals how the recession of 2020 will likely have lasting effects on young people if we don't put measures in place. It includes that policies and programs that aim to address some of the disparities that we are seeing and experiencing between young people born in Australia and those born overseas, can assist with addressing skill recognition in the future, English proficiency, and in-work programs such as traineeships and formal mentoring. Now, evidence also suggests that for young migrants in education, that targets school leadership and culture, teaching and mental health. So really in the younger years and after school programs, and also school parent community partnerships, which Australia is really known for. We need to strengthen that and continue building on that, because it really does play huge dividends downstream as well. Now, targeting teaching as well in this time, we've got to reinforce that. And this will also to support teachers with greater resources to bridge the gap in their understanding on the specific barriers faced by young migrants, will also have positive flow-on effects in the labour market as young people begin to look for employment. So, and beyond education, another thing that's come out of the report is really moving forward with businesses doing much more consultation as well on their specific areas. And this will hold young people and young migrants and refugees in good stead in their labour market ambitions. So in summary, the research, shows challenges, but it also has really shone a light on what we can do to turn things around. And it's important to stay positive and focus on some of the solutions that are coming out. So that's our research in a nutshell in the Australian context, but I'll wait for further questions as I address from the audience. Thank you very much, Jess.
Thank you so much, Maria. And Maria, thank you for that information. And hopefully we can put that on our website as well to give to the people, and so that could support the resources that we have. And I think this is a start. This campaign, connecting with the young people from multicultural backgrounds and able to share their stories is something that we'd like to continue to do. So, Dr. Wright, with all this messaging that's been the reports in the media and also the studies, there's a question from Angela Lubick. What if a young person only believes that stomach pain from anxiety is related to physical health issues, as there is a stigma in new and emerging community about acknowledging anxiety? What is your answer to that?
Yeah. This is a really good question, and it's an issue that's been around for many, many years. Every culture has its own particular language for expressing how they're feeling, and every culture has its own particular difficulties and prohibitions about some issues. The simple message is it's important to find the right language to engage with someone. This is all we're talking about: connection, and connection isn't just striking up a conversation on your own terms. You really need to know the audience, and that's why talking amongst family and familiar friends and communities, you already know these people and you know how to connect, and you also know ways that will make it more likely that you're going to have an honest and constructive conversation. we have to deal with these sorts of things with people in health settings and have done for many years. I think that one of the positives, I guess, out of the pandemic is that there isn't a single person in the world who's going to tell you they haven't been stressed. We've all been stressed. Life is not the same for any of us as a result of the pandemic. So if you're talking to someone who really struggles to connect what is a physical symptom with what's happening to them emotionally or stress-wise, you can turn it around by saying, look, we can't seem to get to the bottom of this physical complaint that you've got. But it's quite possible that the stress that you're under and the things that have been happening in your life and in your community have actually contributed to this problem. Let's talk about the stress. And I've never had a problem with any person if I've introduced these issues by saying, I think you're under a lot of stress, let's talk about that, and let's talk about how we can improve that stress. So you are addressing it indirectly, but eventually you end up with someone who actually appreciates that there is actually there's an emotional connection between the physical symptoms they've got and what's going on in their life.
Thank you so much, Dr. Wright. And I think that's really important to understand, and that message of stay connected is so important. A question from Gordana Kostadinovska. What is the lifestyle funding for these clinics? And I think I'll address that to Natalie.
Thanks, Jess. So at the moment, the pop-up clinics are funded until the end of June 2022. We do anticipate that some of them will continue, and we need to ensure that they're well used to justify their continuation. There is a number of permanent head-to-health services being established across Australia at the moment, including one in Penrith that opened a couple of weeks ago. I'll just let people know about that service as well, because it is open 365 days a year and you don't just have to live in Penrith to go to it. That clinic is open from 1 to 9:30 p.m. every day. So at the moment, to reiterate, the pop-up clinics are there until the end of June, but we do anticipate that many of them will continue as well. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Natalie. And there's a question again from Angela. Are these videos being presented at schools or English language classes? And I guess I'll ask that to Lisa. These videos will be useful for those services.
I think these videos will be really helpful in those settings, and through Multicultural Health Communication Service and everybody here, it's really important that we reach out through our networks to let them know about the videos and really encourage them. I think when we all watch the videos, we really get a really good understanding of the people's stories in the videos, and that then helps us tell our stories. So I think particularly in those settings, there's a lot to be shared, and the videos provide a very nice sort of introduction to conversations that can happen in those contexts.
Thank you so much, Lisa. Subhash, a question for you. How was it participating in a campaign like this where your voice and your story is heard?
Thank you, Jess. So like I previously mentioned, like this was my first step moving from my own mental health stress. So getting to be a participant in a project that was youth-led, youth-initiated, youth-produced, and then being mentored by experts like Gaia, Sophia, Ivania, and it was the first step for me to move out from my own mental stress. Like Maria, she mentioned that there was a lot going through into my life. I was recently graduated from my college. It was really difficult for me to find my job. I applied for a lot of jobs, but because of my visa conditions, a lot of my job they didn't find it comfortable offering me the job. But I'm grateful for my manager, Lisa Greenway from United for Care. She personally reached out to me, asked for my explanation. So when I'm currently on a breathing visa, so most of them would reject my application just because of my visa status. But she understood that I would be granted some more time to stay here, and because of the pandemic, not being able to do my medical assessment, that was blocking me from getting my postgraduate visa. So with this, all these things going on into my life, not being able to go back to my family or invite my parents to come over, this was a lot challenging. And the project that was conducted by SSI and its youth network, it was really helpful for me. It provided me that boost to speak up for myself, try to initiate a leadership between the youth group that we were sharing, having a short discussion every week in and week out. We used to have meetings and seminars and workshops that would push us into a sense that it was boosting us to speak up, take care of our mental health. And even with the video that we were speaking on, it was helping me a lot in terms of me having to go through a lot of my own personal struggle after my graduation. So I feel very grateful and honored to be a part of that video, which helped me in a sense that I always wanted to contribute back to my community. So I was doing it one way, and other way I was helping it within myself and my mental struggle. So it was a great opportunity, and I thank Multicultural Health Communication Network for initiating such events, such projects that would give us support. That would give us a sense of ownership around that. Australian government, New South Wales government, they are concerned about youth well-being. Even like some of the other projects, like the multilingual flyers that we see. I have my friends sharing me that those kind of flyers, those kind of information that has been produced in multicultural languages, that gives us a sense of feeling of ownership. Like Dr. Murray, he mentioned that there is a big influence of faith and family to help us to cope up with our mental health. So that gives a sense of having faith within the New South Wales Health and Australian government, that they are concerned about us as well, although we are from a migrant or a multicultural community. So yeah, it was a boost of a lot of support that I was about to. I got opportunity to encourage myself and speak about my mental health and well-being.
Thank you so much, Subash. Dr. Wright, also before I ask the question, please put your questions on the chat or the Q&A section, and we'll ask your questions. Dr. Wright, hearing what Subash said in the research, what as adults, for young people, what should parents be doing and people around young people be doing to support?
Well, I think that the solutions are reasonably simple, but they're not easy to do on every single day. I think that the difficulty for all of us is that in spite of all of our efforts, I think that the lockdown created pressures and habits and states of mind which are not that easy to put into reverse. And so I think some of the answers are actually contained in that video. And I think the messaging there is wonderful, and it's very positive, and it hits exactly the right note. And that is to look at, we all know what things keep us healthy and what things have a tendency to drag us down. And so I think as parents or as families, I think it's important to remind people who might be struggling for a variety of reasons of what those fairly simple strategies can be. And so having a routine, making sure you have regular, gentle exercise, watching your diet, making sure that you stay in contact with people. And this is particularly challenging for people who might be relatively new to a particular part of the world or a part of the community. Staying in contact, reaching out to people who might be struggling, and as a family, having the conversation and having it on a regular basis. Checking in with people. I think that they are simple strategies, but if you are checking in with people and you do ask them how they're traveling, be prepared to have a proper conversation. Because if someone says to you, actually, I'm really struggling, I'm really stressed because school or jobs or family, then sit down and talk about what are the things that are causing them to struggle, And then talk about, well, what are the things that you can do? Because one of the challenges of the whole pandemic has been this sense of powerlessness, that things are out of our control. And it's really important as a family or as friends or as colleagues to remind people that there are things that we can all control. And that when you're feeling overwhelmed, look for those things that you can control. You can control what you do to a certain extent on a day-by-day basis, and you can make choices all the time that are more positive than negative in terms of how they affect your health. And families are a great place to start those kinds of conversations. Limiting the amount of exposure to the media. The media is an important source of information, and I know this is a media event, and this is a positive message, but a lot of the messaging in the media can kind of create an exaggerated sense of how problematic things are. So limiting that, and then talking about what are the positive things that are happening, and what are the positive events that we can all look forward to. So those are the sorts of things that can happen within a family, and they create a habit which balances. You know, there's a reality out there and there are difficulties, but there are things that we can look forward to as well. That's
really important message, isn't it, Dr. Wright? And it's important to understand and ask the question, are you okay? Yes. And stay connected. Lisa, I just wanted to ask, what other programs are available, such as mindfulness or services that could help a person just stay connected within themselves?
I think there are a whole range of programs that are available. And it's really important, you know, as Murray was saying, that people connect with the types of supports that they feel most comfortable with. The thing that I would add to, you know, to Murray's comments is, you know, dealing with a lot of young people myself, is it's really important to encourage them to rest as well. That's one thing that I've really noticed over the course of the pandemic. We all experience Zoom fatigue, whether that's at work or through education. It's a real pressure on us. I think particularly for young people from multicultural backgrounds, navigating a new culture can be really stressful. Navigating a new language, particularly if you're trying to express your emotions and your feelings, that can be really stressful. So I would really encourage people to take a rest from stressful things. Talk to people in your own language, navigate you know, through your own cultural supports as a way of restoring yourself. There are many programs that are available across New South Wales. Through the Multicultural Health Communication Service, you mentioned particularly mindfulness. Jess, we have audio resources that lead people through mindfulness practices. These are in English, but also in language. And they've been not only you know, voiced in language, but they've also been culturally adapted so that people can take themselves in their mind to some more restful practices. Just as sort of physical exercise contributes to our physical health, doing practices for our mind can also be helpful for our mental health. So there's a whole range of resources, and I would really encourage people to talk to their GP, talk to family and friends about the types of supports that have worked for them as well, and really reach out if you do need that extra support.
Thank you, Lisa. You said reach out to people or someone in your language. And I think that's what Transcultural Mental Health is going to be doing right now with your bilingual community educators and health professionals. Maria, how is that going with supporting the community?
Well, as Dr. Wright has indicated, we will be establishing, and we are in the process of establishing, the Transcultural Mental Health Line, which will mean that CULT communities can ring directly. So until this period, we've had a clinical consultation service that we are well known for, and that will continue. And that service works directly with our mental health services in public mental health. and supporting our service providers and their clients. But what the Transcultural Mental Health line will do is it's really at that, what we want is to prevent. So the aim of the Transcultural Mental Health line is really that early intervention. It's really about getting people in early if they are somewhat distressed, emotionally distressed. It's not, the line will be important really to mitigate people becoming unwell. So it'll be practical strategies, and we will be echoing a lot of this same information that's being discussed today at an individual level and making it make sense in language and in culture, and navigating that for our communities that ring up. And again, as Lisa has said, everyone wants services differently. This is another option, and I anticipate that we will get lots of callers through in the new year. So we're looking at, there's no timeline on when it will open, but it will be in the new year, and we're moving very quickly to have this operational as well. But yes, and just to say that we have got bilingual workers that will be connected to people. So we have a panel of what we call our sessional clinicians, and they allied health professionals, psychologists, and so forth. And between them, at the moment, they speak over 60 language groups. So it's a really important resource for our communities.
Thank you so much, Maria. Natalie, I'd like to just go back to you about the Head to Health project. You've done a lot of messaging to young people. What is so important for Head to Health, and that there's a TIS line as well available?
I guess what's really important about the model is that it's customised to what people need. So once you call the helpline, you'll be talked through what your particular issues are, and then they will find a service that will suit you, whether that be a counselling service or a referral to another type of service, or whether they talk to you themselves and provide that care to you. So, and many of the services have got bilingual workers employed there, so it won't be difficult to communicate with them. I also encourage people to look at the Head to Health website, which I think is in 5 different languages already, so you can find information there about, as well, some online supports and things that you can do for the moment as well. But the other key thing is that there is support available now. I know people have talked about long waiting lists to see psychologists at the moment, and it's true that there is that, but through this program, you can access services pretty much straight away. And I think that's what people, once they've made the decision to seek help, they don't want to have to wait weeks and weeks till they can see someone. And I think that's really a positive thing about it.
Thanks so much, Natalie. We have another question here. What is the time frame for the launch of the Transcultural Mental Health line? I'll pass this on to Murray and also Maria.
I think Maria might be better placed to answer that, and I think she gave a hint that it's sometime early next year.
It will be early next year, and there's not a specific line, but we certainly will. As we are ready, we are going to open up very safely. I mean, it's a very new service, and our priority at the moment is to open up safely, and of course have staff on board, because with the funding has come the establishment of what we call new positions for the service. So we've got to train staff up and so forth. So we will open up safely, but it will be in early, when I say early next year, I hope it will be in the initial quarter of next year, first quarter of next year.
So that's good
time frame. Yeah, I don't want to put because it's not my decision on my own. There's other people up higher that have to make the call as well. But certainly that's what we are trying to move to open this up quite soon. And we know it's going to be a really important service for the communities as well. Just to add as well, Jess, I think the important thing for the Head to Health and for ourselves is also to talk about our second generation population and our CALD communities, because we also get a lot of calls for people that speak English as well. And so we want to make sure that people are aware it's not just about a language service. That is very important, but also we have over the years got many inquiries from people that speak English well, but they feel comfortable with coming to our service because we understand the challenges and the opportunities that come with living between two or more cultures. So I think that's an important message for young people as well, and for families as well. So just leaving you with that thought.
Thank you, Maria. And it's great to hear that the plans are underway and you're preparing for training, and we'll look forward to that next year. But in the meantime, Head to Health is the line to call and to visit. And you'll see in the chat that we've got our team members from the Multicultural Health Communication Service putting the links online for you to get onto and share with your communities. I'd like to ask Murray about the news. You said about media, and it's important. A lot of the stress that's coming from the communities is news from overseas. And how do you block that out?
Well, I'm not suggesting we block news out. I think that again, we're talking about being connected, and part of being connected is to have up-to-date information about what's happening in places that matter to you. And that's different for all of us. I think the difficulty arises when it's such a big event like a pandemic. It's on the news all the time, and it dominates the news, and you can almost drown in the information if you're not careful. And particularly for young children, we need to put context, and we need to limit the news, the exposure to the news, and explain it, because quite often it's presented in a way which can be distressing and confusing to people. So having it as a trigger for a conversation rather than an event all on its own, I think is a really important way of using it to connect us with each other.
Thank you so much, Maria, and thank you so much to all the speakers. I think we have sent you all the links to all the resources, and we'll make sure that all the other resources and research that's provided by Maria are on the website. So thank you so much for all your questions. We wanted to thank all our speakers, Minister David Coleman, Dr. Mari Wright, Lisa Woodland, Natalie Hansen, Subash Budel, and Maria Casaniti for all your information and great support. To the New South Wales Primary Health Networks, we thank you for your great collaboration, partnership, and funding. It's such a pleasure working with you. Every weekend, it's always wonderful to learn from each other. To the incredible teams of the project partners, Special Broadcasting Service, a special mention to Damien and Nadia, and also Settlement Services International. Special mention to Sophia and Dor. We cannot thank you enough, because this project would not be as meaningful and special as it is for us with the videos and the resources. We're so grateful for your support. And to the young people who share their stories, you are truly inspiring. I think every one of us, we've seen the videos, and all over again, like Maria is saying, it's that it does tell you what to do. It's stay connected. They're just simple messages, but they're quite important for us to remember. And to the videos you've seen today, the radio ads and the social media tiles and the recording of the launch presentation will be available for download on the New South Wales Multicultural Health Service website. And that's mhcs.health.nsw.gov.au. And the links will be shared on our social media pages, which are Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And we invite you to like the Multicultural Health Communication Service channels and write #Multicultural Community Wellbeing, and maybe share your tips to staying connected. The New South Wales Multicultural Health Communication Service and the New South Wales Primary Health Networks would like to acknowledge the support of the Office of Minister David Coleman, the Office of the Minister for Mental Health, and the Office for Minister of Health. We'd also like to thank the teams from the New South Wales Health Media, COVID and Strategic Communication, and of course, the content production crew for all their assistance and support. We also want to acknowledge all the team members from the New South Wales PHNs, Primary Health Networks, and the New South Wales Multicultural Health Service team, with a special mention to Sam Shen and Gaia Dharmagesan from MHCS, and Bess Bosman and Sophia Castinas from PHNs for all their work in ensuring the success of this project. Thank you very much for being part of this special event. I'm Jesusa Halaratna. On behalf of our speakers, Dr. Mari Wright, Lisa Woodland, Natalie Hansen, Maria Casanita, and Subash Budel, thank you so much for joining us. Stay safe, be kind to each other, and stay connected. Thank you.